Coach Harbaugh and Michigan are traveling to Penn State, Drew, where they're taking on their first real competitive game of the season this year after pretty much rolling through everybody else on their schedule up to this point. Offensively, they've bullied teams up front. They've looked phenomenal in their quarterback position. Defensively, they've been exquisite. But there's a massive asterisk. They're cheating. And we know the NCAA, I'll be 40 by the time the NCAA probably, gives Michigan some disciplinary action. So until then, they're running scot-free with this scandal, Drew. They're going to face the Penn State Nittany Kittens. I call them kittens because beat up on all the bad teams, but as soon as it's time to play a team like Ohio State or Michigan, they fold. And this is the best Penn State team in correlation to Ohio State and Michigan history. Penn State is closest in skill level to Ohio State and Michigan in recent history, and they still couldn't get it done against Ohio State. When Ohio State has a bad quarterback like Kyle McCord is not going to get you. You might get to the playoffs if they beat Michigan, but Kyle McCord isn't going to win you a playoff game. This is an era where you need an elite quarterback to be a contender. J.J. McCarthy is a true contender. Drew Aller, he has potential, but against Ohio State, he did not play well. So Drew Aller against this Michigan defense that has been dominant, what do you think goes down here?
Well, I think Penn State, I think both teams really plan A is to run the football and control the line of scrimmage on offense. They want to do everything in their power to make sure their quarterbacks aren't put in really tough situations, especially for Penn State's case, because like you mentioned, Drew Aller did not get it done against Ohio State. And we talk about Penn State all the time. If there's going to be a year where Penn State can knock off one of the top two, Ohio State or Michigan, this has to be the year. I don't think there's any other Penn State team that's been better than this current one in terms of overall talent from top to bottom. And just seeing them not get it done against Ohio State, again, just raises more question marks for me. But at the same time, I think Penn State did a poor job of putting Drew Aller in some very tough situations in that Ohio State game against a very tough Ohio State defense. And we saw what happened. Well, Drew Aller was like 18 for 42. You shouldn't be in a situation where Drew Aller is throwing 42 passes in a game when you have Kaytron Allen and Nicholas Singleton in the backfield. It just doesn't make any sense for me. Now, in this game against Michigan, Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen better get more than 9 carries apiece. And if Penn State is able to control the ground, if they're able to get third and manageables, not live in second and third and long, I think Penn State has the capability of putting up more points in this game, and I don't think they're going to get it shut down like they did against Ohio State. Now, Michigan is a good football team, but like you said, and some people are going to come in the comment section and be like, well, it's just allegations. No, it's not allegations. They cheated. This is the most blatant case of getting caught cheating probably in sports history. I don't understand how you guys can keep saying it's allegations and speculation. It's not speculation. There's plenty of proof. Nonetheless, I'm going to try to keep that out of this video. Michigan's still a good football team. Yes, they haven't played anybody, but they're still a really good team. And like you said, Aiden, it's going to be a while before the NCAA does something. Only the Big Ten really has the power to do anything, but I don't think the Big Ten has the balls to do anything to Michigan. So therefore, Michigan's going to keep rolling as long as they're able to. And I think Michigan's going to put up a really good fight against this Penn State team.
Yeah, with Penn State against Ohio State, Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton, I'm pretty sure both had 10 carries or less, which makes no sense. Like you're saying, you don't want Drew Aller throwing 42 passes against a Jim Knowles defense, at Ohio State. Jim Knowles, an obvious mastermind on the defensive side. What he's done with Ohio State has been tremendous in just 2 years. But nonetheless, what this Michigan offense likes to do, formations, heavy sets, and run the football, okay? When you have to commit to stopping the run, you got to send a D lineman or a linebacker in there and sub out that fifth DB. That is when they explode over top with a deep passing play, okay? Defense is no joke either. Penn State is a solid defense, linebacker university, arguably. They got some great linebackers there, great front seven. If they can halt the run for Michigan, because Michigan's been able to stay on script every single drive pretty much all season. They're under no threat of having to change what their game plan is. If Penn State can stifle that run, you're going to see Michigan have to spread out and throw the ball and rely on J.J. McCarthy a lot more, because he's under no pressure when you have an amazing run game and you're going off play action that's working so successfully. So that's going to be a big Key to victory, in my opinion, if you're Penn State, is stopping that run, being strong in the front seven, and winning in the trenches.
Yeah, I think it's more important for Penn State to find a way to stop the run than it is for Michigan to stop the run. But just for the simple fact that if Penn State is able to stop this run that Michigan has, I think JJ McCarthy is just, you can just trust him way more in this situation than a Drew Aller. If Penn State's running game gets stopped, I like Drew Aller. I think he's a good quarterback, but he's a first year starter. It's a very tough ask for him to win you a football game, especially when you're playing against a Michigan defense that's basically been as dominant as it gets throughout the course of the season. But you're right, Aiden. If Penn State is able to stop this running game, I think that Penn State's defense is by far the best defense Michigan has seen this year. So who's to say that although J.J. McCarthy is probably better suited for the situation than Drew Aller is, J.J. McCarthy is not going to go ahead and throw for 300, 400 yards against his defense. This is a really good Penn State defense with, like you said, some really great linebackers that are going to be playing on Sundays, a really good secondary. And the simple fact that Penn State gets this game at home alone, it's hard to carry your passing game on the road with you. It's a lot harder to do it than getting your run game with you on the road. So I feel like if Michigan can't run the ball on the road, it's a tough ask for Michigan and J.J. McCarthy, regardless of how much experience he has and how good of a season he has, to really succeed under these circumstances at Penn State. It's a tough place to play. I mean, it's truly one of the only stadiums other than Georgia, because I'm a Georgia fan, that I do want to go experience a football game at, is Penn State, and for a whiteout.
Yeah, Penn State's atmosphere and environment gives them, a 3 to 3.5 point advantage. Like you mentioned, it's one of the best atmospheres in college football and one of the hardest places to play. But Coach Harbaugh knows how to get his guys motivated. I don't know what it is. Remember, he was suspended the first 2 games of the season. They ran a play for him. We're holding the fours up. They had shirts like he died or something. So somehow, some way, Coach Harbaugh is able to motivate these players. That's not a knock on Harbaugh, by the way. That's a compliment to what he can do. So these guys are going to be motivated to go into Penn State for their first test of the year, and it's an away game. As far as Coach Franklin goes, head coach for Penn State, I said this against Ohio State, man. I liked Penn State against Ohio State. I picked Ohio State because Franklin's never been able to get it done. Show me, what is it, like 0-13, 0-14, or 1-14 against Ohio State and Michigan? Dude, coach at Penn State and fucking beat Rutgers and Northwestern and these cupcake teams in the Big Ten. You got to beat Ohio State and Michigan. Ohio State and Michigan, man. You can compare it to the SEC. Look at the third-ranked teams in the SEC. You have to be able to beat Alabama and Georgia, or you're going to lose your job. Who is satisfied with being the third-best team in the Big Ten? I just say that to say Coach Franklin, as much as I like Penn State, he hasn't showed me that he could take the next step. There's only a few teams that go to the championship every year, Drew. Kirby Smart. It's it was Dabo for a while when he had Brent Venables. It's Nick Saban. It's Ryan Day. It's Jimbo Fish. It's the same 6 coaches. Only a certain, that's why these coaches are so highly touted. If you can get there, your chances of getting there again are a lot higher than taking a chance on somebody who's never been in that situation ever. James Franklin is a guy who, he's a good coach, but I'm pretty sure we've seen he can't get you over that fucking hump. And he's going against a great elite coach that has had success in the NFL and Coach Harbaugh. So to make a long story short, I'm taking Michigan in the points. I think Penn State's probably going to get beat a little bit ugly in the second half, just because Michigan is so physical and dominant in what they've done, and success breeds more success. If you've been having nothing but success and that's the trend, that's the trend for your team, it makes it a lot easier to have more success. Just like if a team who's losing, you got to learn how to win. It's a lot harder to win. With all that being said, I think Michigan is going to get it done at Penn State.
I agree with you, Aiden. James Franklin, it's one of those situations where until you see him do it, it's hard. It'd be almost foolish to pick him because you've never seen him do it. So why would I go and pick James Franklin? I know that Penn State's at home. I know that they have a lot of advantages heading into this game compared to years past where they didn't have. But at the same time, James Franklin's going to have to prove to me that he can win a big-time football game before I start picking him in these games. And in all honesty, even all that aside, I still just think Michigan's the better team overall. Even if James Franklin was a guy who's won big-time football games consistently. I would probably still pick Michigan in this game. I like Penn State. They're a good football team, and I do want to see him win. I do want to see him, James Franklin have success. I think he's a really good coach. But he just hasn't proven to me that he can do it, so I don't think he's going to do it again. I think Michigan wins. I think Michigan covers the spread. And Penn State's probably going to settle for another 10-2 season, finishing third in the Big Ten. It's just how it's looking right now. Maybe I'll be wrong. Who knows? But that's going to do it for this video, guys. As always, leave down below in the comment section what you predict is going to happen and what are some keys for both teams in this game. Also, be sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And that's going to do it for this one. We'll see you guys in the next one.